The developer diary for the September 2nd PTB is finally out, so let's take a look at all the changes coming with this patch. And let's begin with what is possibly one of the biggest balance changes introduced in the history of the game, and that is the slugging reduction changes in order to combat slugging. So, first of all, any survivor left in the ground for a total of 90 seconds during a match will be able to pick themselves up after fully recovering. This mechanic can be deactivated in custom matches, which is a good option. Next up, survivors will gradually have more speed the longer they are in the dying state, and just like with the perk tenacity, survivors can now recover while crawling, and you don't have to hold any button as this happens passively. Several killer and survivor perks will also be changed to account for this update. On the first GIF, you can see how Dwight can start moving and recover without any perks, along with the bar that progressively charges on the bottom the longer you are in the dying state. And on the second GIF, you can see how the survivor stands up after 90 seconds have passed. Now, something very important to note is that they said the unbreakable effect happens after 90 seconds total during a match. So if I understand it correctly, this means that anytime you are on the ground, the 90 seconds timer passes. So if you get healed and downed again, you do not lose any progress from the unbreakable effect. But once again, I could be wrong. It's pretty safe to say that even without testing this PTB, killers which rely on slugging, like Twins, Oni, and in a way Singularity, get massively nerfed with this change. I fully understand what the devs are trying to do, because slugging feels very bad on the receiving end, and obviously player satisfaction is the most important part, especially for casuals and new players. But this change is absolutely a massive nerf to slugging for pressure and a gigantic buff to bully squads, since they basically get both tenacity as well as a weak version of unbreakable base kit. For example, a bully squad can now set up one single boon exponential, and now survivors with the movement speed during slugging can just recover easily. Like I said, for casuals and people that play the game for fun, this is an amazing change that will make being slugged feel a bit better, and maybe even prevent survivors from abandoning once all 4 of them are slugged like it currently happens. But against competent survivors, slugging for pressure is basically not an option anymore, as survivors can move around the map easier in order to get safer resets, and killer players have to account for this mechanic. If you thought that was huge, just wait for the tunneling reduction update changes. So first of all, when a survivor is hooked, their hook status is hidden from the killer, and when unhooked, the killer does not get a notification and their status is not revealed immediately, except in the endgame where you can still see it. Unhooked survivors will gain the following effects: Haste, Endurance, and Elusive, a new status effect. Elusive survivors do not have collisions with other players, both survivors and killers, and they are also undetectable to killer instinct and can see the aura of the killers nearby. These effects are lost on conspicuous actions. Once the endgame happens, survivors no longer get the elusive status effect. For killers, now they can see who was the last survivor they hooked, and after getting a unique hook, which is having different survivors hooked consecutively, they get the following benefits: a mini version of Pop Goes the Weasel, a temporary haste effect like with Devour Hope, and temporary reveal like Barbecue and Chili to any survivors that have less or equal hook states to the hooked survivor. So 3 perks, base kit, and a nice buff to killers overall. Now for killers like Blight, Dracula, Ghoul, Hillbilly, and the Nurse, officially recognized by behavior to be S tiers, these effects are weaker. In the endgame, all effects are also disabled for everyone. And finally, in order to prevent tunneling at 5 gens, now if a survivor dies before a total of 6 hook states, all remaining survivors get a repair speed boost for the rest of the match, and if the last survivor that was hooked ended up dying or sacrificed, you cannot regress generators or block them, which are a big nerf, especially for killers like Sadako, who could get a very fast condemned kill, and now they will be severely punished for it. Of course, you can choose to disable these mechanics in custom matches, and also all perks related to these mechanics will get changed. I can safely say that this patch might be the most game-changing patch behavior has ever done to Dead by Daylight, and is going to completely shape up the way the game is played, just like with the Go Next Prevention did for solo queue, along with the map offerings nerf. Both of these changes were made in order to make the survivor end feel much better compared to before, and also compensate the killers in some capacity. While this is still a nerf in my eyes, I am very glad that the devs gave killers something instead of just not giving them anything like they did for slugging. And we will have to test these things in-game against competent survivors in order to see how impactful these changes truly are, because the PTB will be filled with low experience survivors that just want to see the new content. The previously mentioned Elusive status effect will now be part of some existing perks in the future, probably part of the perk of the record, for example. This is going to be the survivor version of Undetectable. For fans of the lore, we are getting the tomes finally back, and this time instead of unlocking them with challenges, they will be free for everyone and unlock each week. I am curious to see who they choose to tell the story of, maybe from a new chapter. Michael Myers actually got a major update to his kit, and now he is officially a dash slop killer. First of all, Evil Within no longer exists. Now, Myers is a stance change killer that has two modes. Stalker mode, where he is very slow, has undetectable and can stalk survivors, and Pursuer mode, where he is normal speed, has a 24 meter stare radius, increased vault speed, has bonuses to lunge range, break speed, and stun recovery, but where he cannot stalk survivors. Once the stalk meter is full, Myers can trigger Evil Incarnate mode, granting the following effects for a limited time. Survivors will no longer be exposed, their radius is increased to 40 meters along with extra vault speed, and Myers becomes a dash killer that can perform the Slaughtering Strike ability, which works in a very similar way to the Pig's Ambush or Chucky's Slice and Dice, and it will also break pallets on collision with them. Tombstone Piece was made partially base kit, as now you can Mori survivors by default as long as they are on Death Hook. And in terms of stalking mechanics, they removed the limited pool per survivor, reduced the stalk range to 32 meters, and there is no longer a stalk distance buff. Also, Myers can move faster while stalking, but standing still makes him stalk faster. Add-ons got reworked in order to fit this new power design. For example, Fragrant Tuft of Hair will replace the dash with the old version of his power, so that's cool. It's really crazy to see such a massive change to Myers, but I am very happy it is here, as I wanted him to become a stance change killer like I said on my Myers rework video, only that I am surprised to see Myers become a dash character. Now I can safely say that Myers, without a joke, could become a candidate for new A or high B tier killer depending on how his power works. I like what I heard from this rework, and Myers seems to be much more fun to play with after this patch. I'm very excited to see the effects of the new add-ons, and honestly very happy with these changes. The Clown got some of his changes reverted, as now the yellow bottle delay is longer and the lingering purple bottle effect is longer too. Hopefully this makes Clown feel more than the original one before they made him completely brain dead, and gives killers a reason to use both bottles instead of spamming one. As an unknown main, I am happy to announce that it got buffed. They increased the time added to the weekend effect when injuring survivors with a projectile, increased the speed recovery after teleporting, increased the angle at which you can look up and down in the camera, and adjusted several add-ons which hopefully are more buffs. Unknown was almost a perfect design killer, and these changes are very good quality of life changes that I am sure will make it feel better to play. Very excited to see how this killer feels like after these buffs, and what kind of orbital shots can be done with the camera lock being gone. Dracula got some changes to his kit, starting with Vampire Form, which got the Hellfire cooldown reduced at the cost of removing one pillar of fire, reducing the speed during charging, and also increasing the slowdown after casting Hellfire, which I assume are there to prevent spamming and zoning, which is very strong on this killer. Wolf Form got a nerf to both Scent Orb spawning, along with increased Pounce charge time, and Bat Form is less slidey compared to before. Additionally, some add-ons will be adjusted. The devs said that Dracula is too oppressive for their liking, which to be fair is true since he is a pretty good killer. But I want them to fix the bugs this killer has first, before doing any nerfs to Dracula, because I am sure his mains are pissed. In the same patch where Dracula got various nerfs, Kaneki only got one. Now when grabbing a survivor on the other side of a vault, the survivor is released the moment Kaneki vaults, and not when he ends vaulting, so it's a nerf to the kidnap tech. There are much more changes I would have done to Kaneki personally, including a buff to the Kagune distance as it feels much worse compared to the PTB, but I will take a nerf to this mechanic, which was clearly not intended and makes this killer look so brain dead when in reality Ghoul has a crazy high skill ceiling that many players are not showcasing. The devs are aware that the slugging changes are a big nerf to Oni, so they buffed him by giving more blood orbs once a survivor is hooked. This makes Oni more rewarded by using the power to down a survivor, hook them, and start blood free again, which combined with the tunneling incentive thingies is, I feel, going to be decent. We will have to see how many blood orbs are actually spawned in game. Also, seems like the devs once again forgot about a specific killer, but I am not sure who it was. And finally, the devs confirmed that aside from the perk changes done due to the new slugging and tunneling mechanics, we will also get the usual balanced general perk updates. Let me know in the comments what you think about these changes, because I am personally very curious to see the opinion of the community, as this is without a doubt one of the most impactful patches they have added in almost a decade. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.